Hello, everyone. First of all, thanks so much for inviting me today. It really is a pleasure to speak to you all. It sounds like you've been having a fantastic conference. What I really wanted to speak to you all about was around the role technology plays in fighting food waste. So I've got a few slides here. I think I've only got 9 minutes, so I'll try and be as quick to the point as I can, which I hear isn't something I'm always usually very good at. So apologies in advance there. But yes, ourselves over at Too Good To Go, we're all about fighting food waste. We're a social impact company which is dedicated to addressing the issue of food waste. But I think very much before we start delving into those issues themselves and the solutions around it, it's worth zooming out a second and thinking about the bigger picture around food waste. And with that, we need to start and talk about food. Our relationship with food is something which is, developed considerably over time, but it's something which is at the epicenter of our lives. And what I really mean about that is food is something which is necessary for our own survival, right? Without eating food, we cannot survive. It's something which is paramount to our own development. Without eating food, we can't learn as well. We can't develop. But it's also that social glue, right? It's that social glue that brings us all together around the table for a drink in the pub, whatever it may be. It is food that is imperative to our survival. It's imperative to our development, and it's also imperative to our social lives. It is that social glue. So let us ask that question then. Why is it when something is so important to us that we show it the ultimate disrespect by wasting it? And really wasting it we do. By the time I finish speaking to you here in 9 minutes or so, we will have wasted 30,000 tons of food globally. 30,000 tons. Because we're wasting 50 tons worth of food every single second. So it really does add up. And you may be wondering then, why is food waste such a huge issue? Well, it's such a huge issue because of the volume in which we're wasting it. 40% of the food that we produce ends up in the bin. And this has profound implications from us on an environmental, a social, and a financial perspective. It's costing the global economy, or the global purse, I should say, over $1.2 trillion every single year. Globally, there are over 800 million people that go to bed hungry every single day, yet we're wasting 1.3 billion tons of food. So, food waste really is the true injustice here. It just doesn't make sense. And then environmentally, food waste accounts for 10% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions, meaning that if food waste was a country, it would be the third largest greenhouse gas emitter after the US and China. Now, we waste food, we're wasting the resources, and this is where the environmental impact comes from. Because when we're wasting food, we've wasted all of the energy, right? That's gone into producing that food. So all of the land that's been converted, all of the labor which has been used to harvest the food, the fertilizers to grow it, the water to wash it, the fuel to transport it, and the electricity to store it. So it isn't just the plate of food in front of us that we're wasting, but it's all of those resources, all of those emissions which have gone into producing it. So this leads me here, and if there's one thing that you can take away from my talk, it's that reducing food waste is that number one solution, that number one action that we as individuals, but importantly, we as leaders can take against climate change. Now, this all comes from Project Drawdown. And essentially what this report said in March of last year was that reducing food waste is the most immediate, most impactful, and simple action we can take against climate change. So please have a think about that and what you can do in your industry, in your role, to really start moving the needle there. Yet at the same time, despite food waste being that number one solution, 70% of Europeans are unaware of that connection between food waste and climate change. So really what I want to say is that even though 70% are unaware, yet 81% of Europeans understand food waste is a huge problem, is how we can use technology as a source to engage businesses and consumers on this topic, how it can help bridge that gap of awareness. So going back and doubling back to ourselves at Too Good To Go, we ourselves as an organization, we were born out of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and specifically SDG 12.3, which talks around halving global food waste by 2030. Now, the way in which we've done this is very much around the setup of our company, the setup of our organization, and the strategy which we have implemented. So our vision is all around, trying to achieve a planet and live in a planet in which there is no food waste. And the way in which we get there, our mission is around inspiring and empowering people to fight food waste together. Now, when I talk about this, that inspire factor is something which comes around knowledge, right? We can give people that knowledge, like I've just hopefully done for some of you here, around the scale and gravity of the issue of food waste itself. But inspiring people only goes so far. We have to be able to give people those tools in which to action it, which is where this empower section comes into play. So how can we enable people to start fighting food waste? But it's also about doing it collaboratively and doing it together. No one person, no one individual can solve this crisis of food waste. We can only do this by working with one another. And this is really at the heart of Too Good To Go. And you can see here some pillars which underpin us. And at the heart of this is our marketplace, our app, in how we use technology to connect individuals with businesses who have surplus food. But it's also about going beyond that, giving individuals, giving households, giving businesses the tools in which to fight food waste themselves. It's about working with schools to ensure, that the young people don't continue to make the same mistakes that we've done in my generation and generations before. And it's also around working with public affairs. So how can we, as an organization, help shape and shake up our policy system? Now, as an organization, we want to be transparent. So we release impact reports to demonstrate how we're fighting food waste. We go beyond this as well, so through doing things around date labels. So working with fast consumer good brands to communicate on-pack knowledge around date labels themselves, to try and demystify a lot of the confusion around best befores and use by dates. We make publications for people at home, recipe books, in order to give them some of those tips and tricks to reduce their food waste in their own kitchens. But at the very heart of this is around our app. It's a simple solution for reducing food waste. Now, this marketplace itself is available in 17 countries, and we launched in Ireland back in September last year. So almost 12 months to the day where we launched. And what we're seeing now is the impact that we're able to make. Over 160 million meals that we've been able to rescue, working with over 100,000 different food businesses and over 50 million people using our app. Now, I talk about this not from a vanity perspective, but because it really highlights how technology can be a vehicle to inspire people and, importantly, empower people to bring about change. Now, the app itself works incredibly simply. You log onto the app and you'll see a whole host of participating food businesses, and you reserve through the app what we call a surprise bag. So you don't really know what it's going to be, but that itself is part of the fun. And then you go to the business and collect that food there towards the end of the day. So a total surprise, and you pay a reduced price. And it's what we call a win-win. And this is what I love about what we've been able to do with Too Good To Go, is we've been able to create a model in which the environment wins, the consumer wins, and the business wins. So the individual is able to reduce their own food waste, rescue amazing food at amazing prices whilst doing something positive for the environment. And a business themselves is able to reduce their own waste disposal costs. They're able to attract new customers and recover some revenue. And at the same time, it's positive for the environment because none of this food is going to waste. So what we're seeing is how technology can be this vehicle for change. We're seeing how it's used by businesses to engage their employees. Nobody enjoys throwing food away. And we're seeing how it's engaging the public as well. So in essence, Too Good To Go has been using technology by being simple, by being something that's accessible, and also something that is fun. And so when I talk about it being simple, it's an intuitive app to use. It's really easy to understand and to get. You pay a reduced price and you get a surprise bag. And it's accessible. 95% of the Irish public have a smartphone. So the solution is literally in people's pockets. It's just about activating them and letting them know how to use it. But it's also fun. We talk about the climate crisis. We talk about climate change. And making this something which isn't around the doom and gloom keeps it engaging and keeps it fun for people. So I'll pause there, guys, and thank you very much for listening.